This is the People Before Politics show, broadcast every Sunday at 6 p.m. Hosts Damon K. Jones and AJ Woodson bring you the news that impacts our community. Join us for unfiltered, unapologetic coverage of the stories that matter most. Black Westchester Magazine presents the People Before Politics show, the news with the Black point of view.
Peace and blessings, everybody. What's happening? This is the Black Westchester Magazine, People Before Politics show. And I'm Damon K. Jones.
And I'm AJ Woodson.
And we're here tonight having another Sunday. Peace and blessings to everybody who's watching on Instagram, who's watching on YouTube. Oh, man. And Facebook, who's watching on Facebook, welcome. We're here today, another Sunday. God bless that we're able to see another Sunday, man.
Absolutely.
So what's good, AJ?
Nah, nothing, man. I spent today, I went to, I was telling you I was at Union Baptist Church in Greenburgh, or it says White Plains, but it's Greenburgh, I guess. Brenda Crump, she joined that church and she got the right hand of fellowship today. So we went down there and hung out with her and then went to a spot to eat. You know what I'm saying? I just got back just shortly before the show. So that was cool. What else? There's been a lot going on this week. Andre had his little fundraiser in his building. I checked that out.
How was that?
It was pretty good. I mean, you know, small, intimate crowd, but, you know, his loyal supporters were there. And Uncle Frank said, what's up?
Yeah,
he said,
Uncle Frank, man.
Huh?
I said, I haven't talked to Uncle Frank.
Yeah, he said, tell Damon I said, what's up? So, you know, he was always there. It was pretty good. I can't complain. Yeah, me, man, I just going through Damaris. I stopped at Damaris' spot, the little art gallery she got in Ernie's building, and she's cataloging all his stuff. You know, Ernie got one of the largest collections of African art from Africa. Definitely in Mount Vernon in New York. I mean, in Westchester, maybe New York, maybe even bigger than that. Crazy, but you know, she's been in there. She's cataloging everything and organizing it and everything, and you know, she uses the outside spot outside of that where his gallery is, and gave and put together like a studio where she sells and showcases her art, but she also opens it up for other artists. You know, she had me come through and speak on my book. She had, you know, some people come through, do spoken word, and you know, just everybody, you know, sharing a space where people can share their work and sell their work. So I went there. She does that like the first Saturday every month, and that was good. I enjoyed that. That was pretty decent. You know, she raffled off some stuff. I gave her the first book so she could raffle off, and you know, for the proceeds, you know, for the gallery. So that was pretty good. It's been just promoting the heck out of the book. You know, I got my YouTube channel now, Mr. AJ Woodson. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Got all the little clips, you know, promoting the book and some interview clips. And, you know, been doing a lot of interviews lately for either the book or for JVC. Might have some JVC news soon coming up that I can share. So me and my partner, shout out to my partner, B-Love. Bottom line is we rehearsing every Saturday now. You know what I'm saying? Getting back
That's good.
Back in show shape. You know what I'm saying? And you know,
no, that's good, brother. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. So you know, there's been a little interest, and you know, ain't nothing official yet. People just talk until they, you know, some money and some paper, some contracts come down. But bottom line, we ready. If any promoters out there want to book JVC, we ready. We ready to go. We ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So that's been that. And just, like I said, you know, just keeping the website going. You've been writing like crazy.
Yeah, as always.
been trying to keep the website good, do all the manual upkeep on the site, and, stuff like that. So it's just been staying really, really busy, man.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. Yeah,
Just
man. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah,
That's
grind.
great.
Shout
That's
out to
great.
shout out to Chris Latt. I be rocking that at some of the when I do the hip hop book and I go certain places, I rock that hoodie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Team 914 represent that. So shout out to him.
Well, Chris Latt, um, Chris Latt, this is my Mr. Rogers outfit. Hangs right up in my closet. I can't find it. I grabbed the hoodie, man.
No
It's
doubt.
just hangs up right in my closet. And if I can't find anything or I don't feel I'm in that type of mood, I just put this on before I do a video. You can't go wrong with Team 914, man. You can never go wrong with Team 914. And if people watch the different videos and they said, this dude wear the same hoodie in all the videos, that means I might have did all the videos in one day, to get it out of the way. But, we representing regardless.
No doubt.
Later,
I'm wearing that on the back cover of the hip hop book too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So those who are just tuning in for today's show, we will be we will be discussing. Hold on, going on with that. We will be discussing for today is the blueprint for the new black middle class. Why trades could save Black America. It's very it's very important. I've written articles in the past about it, and when our guests come on, Taurus McBride of Taurus Tech, he's really going to have this. He's really going to have this discussion about trades and the importance to get our young people in trades. And if anybody who's on the board of education, any politician, any pastor, or any community leader, let's not get caught behind the 8 ball when trends change, as we always do as Black people. We always get caught behind the 8 ball. Let's stop begging for jobs from white companies and stop looking at ways to empower our children, the next generation, to have their own businesses. That's what made Black Wall Street. That's what made those very strong towns back in the days was they had their trades, they gave services and goods. We have to change as Black people to start focusing on services and goods. We spend $1.5 trillion as consumers, and we don't consume with ourselves. We don't spend that money with ourselves. So we have an opportunity. We really have an opportunity to change to change our mindset and change the direction and where we going. Because if you're not paying attention to national politics, the world is changing. And we have to change with it. And one of the key things is making sure our young people get in these vocational. It's going to be 500,000 available jobs in trades. 500,000. Imagine if we could get young Black men in half of those, what they could do for themselves and for the community and for their family, for their wives and their children. If we could just get half, hell, if we could get 1/3, we could get 1/3. So we have to change the pattern. We have to get these school systems to start having trade in their schools.
Like they used to.
Yeah, like they used to.
I mean, we had
What
that
happened?
when we were in high school. We had those things. We had those programs, and everybody's not college bound, but when you teach a kid the trades, whether it's construction, whether it's whatever it is, whatever the trade is, they leave high school with a skill. They leave high school. See the problem. The problem is with the standardized tests and stuff. We're graduating kids, not preparing them for life after high school, not preparing them. So yeah, you do no kids left behind, and we got the graduation rate, but you didn't prepare the kid. Those that are not going to colleges, you're not preparing them for life. You're not giving them a trade. You're not giving them anything to work on. There's some going on, but there's not enough. Marvin Church does a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of people that do stuff like that. There's small pockets of this, but we need to do more of this as a community, especially in cities like Mount Vernon, which is majority minority. You know what I'm saying? A lot of our kids are getting left behind. And then you wonder why, when they don't have no skill and no trade and no, they can't get a job that can sustain their family. They take the easy route out and do things like selling drugs and stuff where they can make a lot more money, which is more dangerous and usually ends up they dead or jail. So that's no long-term plan for their family. You know what I'm saying? We're not teaching our kids. We're not preparing them for the future.
No, we're not.
And that is, and I said that is a failure of all of us. We're failing the next generations. We're failing the future generations by that. And so college is not for everybody. A lot of people leave in debt and don't even finish college, but they went because they were told that's what they had to do. And they don't come out with, they don't come out with no degree. They come out in debt, and then they still can't get a decent job. It's funny because after I left the church, we was in Tarrytown. I was riding around Tarrytown, and it reminded me of my dad working for General Motors. Again, you was talking about how General Motors helped, build a middle class in our communities in Westchester, and when we lost General Motors, when General Motors packed up and left, it killed a good portion of our middle class. Those were middle class jobs that you can get in with a GED and a high school diploma. You didn't need college. And my dad was there for 35 years. My grandfather was there for 35 years. They supported their family. They owned houses. You know what I'm saying? They had benefits that took care of us. You know what I mean? And those are real jobs. And, everybody's not built for corrections. That's another job that you can get, but everybody ain't built for that. There's a whole lot of people that job's just not for them. They're not built for that.
Yeah. No. Well, not everybody's built for it.
Right. But I mean, there's not too many other choices legally for you to get a substantial job where you can make a living and take care of your family. Like, right out of high school.
Exactly.
No, without trades. I'm saying right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're relegated to low paying jobs. If you don't have skills, we have to teach our young people skills. And you got people coming out with certificates, and they're making more money than people that went to school that have master's degrees. Starting out $50, $60 an hour. I mean, our guests will talk about it, and this is what we need to focus on our young men. We went through the whole college, the college thing with Barack Obama, but we missed out on yes, coding too. But those are all skills. Those are all skills that people can get, and they could actually get certificates, for it. And sometimes they could get free classes.
Right. I'm saying right now with the early coding and AI and all of that stuff, it's early in the game right now. There's free training for some of the stuff that you can get certified and you can come out the gate. You know what I'm saying? Making some money, like, you know, getting in
Exactly.
on the ground level. Good afternoon, my good brothers. Good afternoon, Kenyatta Adams. What's up, my brother?
Hey, what's up now?
Yes. So we got to do this. I mean, you know, Andre was doing a little bit of it, and others. He wasn't the only one that had those construction classes, and a lot of young people got decent construction jobs. Your son was even working on one of the buildings in Mount Vernon for a while. You know, for a couple of years till the building went up. You know, then they get when they can get in the union. You know, they start out $17, $20 an hour. But when they get in the union, it's $35, $50 an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like just in the beginning of being in the union. So I know it's hard. They don't want us in the union, but you know, people
Well, we got to create our own.
right. But you had
we got to start creating our own.
When you had people like Andre, who when he had those people that were good, and those people, then he used his capital and his connection to the union to get some of those people in the union. And
Yes, he did.
And I know, because, you know, I ran with him, and I know there was a lot of families in Mount Vernon. It was like, yo, their nephew or their son was in and out of jail, couldn't hold down a job, was in the streets, went through Andre's class. Now dude's making like $35. Now he's getting his life together. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo, you know, and the classes didn't cost. You know, the core curriculum classes, construction curriculum, they were free. You know what I'm saying? He was getting them their OSHA cards and their OSHA 30, and he was giving them a start. And one dude, they News 12 did a story on him. The dude was to drop out. He was getting in and out of trouble. He went to jail. He went to Andre's class. Went to WCC. You know, he's got his degree. He's a big success story. News 12 did a big story on him. You know what I'm saying? So we have to get back to those, get back to the trades, and we have to start taking more control of our community. I mean, also farming. Like back in the days, we used to each have my partner B Love. I meant to tell you, Damon. He just started gardening in his yard. He got a whole bunch of, you know, he's doing the peppers and all of that stuff. Now his neighbor's doing other stuff. You know, they trading. Like he's getting them. They bought it, you know, he's getting some stuff, and he's getting fresh fruits and vegetables from his neighbor. Then the other neighbor, like a block away, is doing totally different stuff. And they trading amongst themselves. They got fresh fruits and vegetables straight from the ground. They're saving money from the supermarkets. And they're each doing something different, and they're trading amongst themselves in their community. That builds their community.
No, absolutely. But we got Jasmine Crockett saying we don't do farming.
I didn't hear her say that, but I don't know.
No, I'm making a statement. I mean, you don't have to co-sign on it. I'm making the statement. You ain't got to co-sign on my statement.
No, we got black farmers. We got black farmers.
No. We do have black farmers, and we need to connect. We need to begin to connect with black farmers. We have black farmers. There's a Black Farmer Association in New York State. And hopefully this spring, I would like to connect with them, because we need to support our black farmers. Black people are the only group of people in the United States that don't have a food chain. When I say food chain, they cannot trace their food from the supermarket to the farm. We don't have that. Other ethnic groups have it. And really, we don't talk about it enough. But we can't have elected officials saying that we do not need to do farming anymore. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have, and sometimes when you make a mistake in public, you have to be corrected in public. And we can't have our black elected officials saying that, because that creates dependence. It doesn't create sovereignty. It doesn't create independence. It creates dependence on a system that we know doesn't love us. But we have to get back to supporting our black farmers. You know, they're not struggling. You know why? Because they didn't get subsidies. Right. They didn't get subsidies. So business, there's business as usual.
And you know I'm sorry, they have this thing at 4th Street Playground every year. I haven't been in 2 years, but they have the black farmers that come there, and they connect with everybody. They have all their stuff there, and how they hook up and how you can hook up with them. Where my sister is, Damon, they got co-op farms. So farmer, he might be struggling. So all the neighbors like my sister, they pay extra amount of money per month, and that helps sustain the farm.
Yeah.
So they get the first pick of everything that what they want. You know what I'm saying? And then the farmer, he got crops now, and he sells the rest. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's a co-op thing. You know what I'm saying? So that's another idea that when she was telling me about that, I was like, yo, we need to look more into that too. Because one, we help our local farmer because you're paying your little $20, $50 a month or whatever it is. That money they get a bunch of people. That subsidizes them to do the farming. You get the first pick, and then they sell the rest, and y'all are sustaining each other in our community. You know what I'm saying?
And so every Wednesday, when my house had the flood, and I was staying in White Plains, every Wednesday, the side street from the county building, they had a farmers market, and there was a lot of black farmers out there. There was one brother, Dr. Pickle. I used to buy pickles from him.
He set up at Kobe's in Greenberg.
He has
his little truck thing, whatever. And everybody was talking about everybody's talking about him.
Yeah, Dr. Pickle. His pickles are good. I used to buy pickles from him every Wednesday. I used to get my fruits and vegetables from there and take it up to my hotel room and put it in the little refrigerator that I had. But we have to begin, and shout out to Kobe for doing her farmers market in Greenberg.
And that doesn't give enough support. We don't go there.
We're gonna start really promoting that part of it.
Everything is fresh, no matter what you're looking for. Like, I mean, I've come up, I've gone there and come up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's it's fresh. We need the support, and those are black. And there's other black businesses that set up there too. We need to support those entities like that. We skip that, and then we go to Target, and we go to Stop and Shop, and we go wherever. We got black businesses like that putting stuff together, and we don't support that. We don't come out. The place is never crowded. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's never crowded. Like, it's just enough of us ain't going there to support.
Right.
So shout to Kobe for what she did.
Shout out to Kobe, because we really have to start pushing what Kobe's doing. She was doing great work with the
Greenberg Farmers Market.
Yeah, with the Greenberg Farmers Market. And she just recently had her what's the awards thing she did with the women
who dare to be different. Yeah,
she just different. Yeah, I texted her, told her to send me some photos.
That young lady Larnez that we met before, she's been doing articles. She was there, so she's waiting for the pictures from Kobe. She is covering.
She's gonna write it. Okay, great.
She's been writing a bunch of stuff. So she was there. So she's going to be taking care of that for us.
Oh, okay, that's cool, because I had text Kobe too and told her to send the pictures so we could put it on the site. But that's great. No, we have to support these initiatives, but also it has to come from black leadership, man. It just can't come from us and our platform. It has to come from black leadership. They have to start being vocal, about these things. We don't hear it enough.
Community for this stuff too. We need to support. We need them to bring money to support initiatives like Kobe and all those who are doing that.
Right, and we need independent money. Like, we can't rely on the usual money train that compromises our blackness.
Right.
We can't do it anymore, right? We really can't do it anymore. I'm writing a book. It's almost finished, and it's called the emotional politics and logical failure, what black politics refuses to face. And part of the thing, and part of it is who controls our narrative and who controls the purse strings, and for us being independent. And when we're looking at situations like farming, when we're looking at situations like training our youth, sometimes we are compromised because those who write the check do not want us to actually do these things, and talk about these things.
Shout out to my sister Jasmine Clark.
Yeah, banking is another thing that we need to gather around. Imagine if we pulled all our money and put it in black banks. The economic leverage that black people will have. When you start thinking like that, you get shot. You get, if they can't destroy your credibility and make you and make you an outsider, the next thing they will do is kill you.
Right.
They will kill you. Good evening. Because you're talking about something that upsets the system.
I want to just shout this sister again, Jasmine Clark. I did a spotlight on her talking about supporting black businesses. She has a company called Soul Jazz Aesthetics. She's a distributor for plant-based beauty, health, and wellness company. She has plant-based beauty products, and you can just read the article about her on Black Westchester. And, she has a local black business that we need to support in White Plains. Just look her up. Go to blackwestchester.com and search her name. She's doing good things, and we need.
She got to come on Money Mondays.
Oh yeah. Oh, see, you hear that, Jazz? Yeah, holla. David,
you got to come on Money Mondays, and we'll talk about your business, because we're trying to get black people to start businesses, to get their corporations and understand corporations are people too, and use it to their advantage, and having a business and having tax write-offs and giving services back to the community. It's all about services. It's all about creating. We have to, I've been listening to a lot of Thomas Sowell. He's a black conservative. He's an economics, but one of the things that he is what is the outcome. We do not judge our productivity by our outcome. So if we've been fighting police brutality for 30 years.
Even longer than that, but yeah, we have.
Right. And the outcomes are not positive. Then we really have to look at, what's not creating the outcomes that are desired.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. What are the outcomes that if these factors are not creating the outcomes, then we really have to change the factors. And that's just logical. It's not emotional. It's logical. We have to change the factors to create the necessary outcome that we're looking for. So we have police brutality in a city. Then what are the factors that we can change to change that? Vote out the city council, change the mayor, change the police commissioner. These are the factors. Those it's no other factors in that, right? Because the police commissioner work at the will of the mayor. And if the mayor doesn't change the police commissioner to change the policies, procedures, and training in the police department, then you replace the mayor. Those are the factors.
Unless you got a city manager. Yeah. Unless you got a city manager.
I mean, if you have a city manager, it is what it is. But no.
The city manager works at the behest of the city council.
Then you change, right? Yeah, but then you change them.
Right. No. I was just explaining for those people. Yeah.
It's still the same factors.
Yeah.
It's still the same factors, but we get so emotional, we don't look at the logical steps to create the outcomes that we're looking at. It's no more feelings, right? It's no more of that. We're just trying to look at outcomes. And this is how we have to change politics. Especially for the Black community, what are the outcomes that are we looking for? And what are the factors that are going to create those outcomes? And then we support those factors. If those factors that we're supporting is not creating the necessary outcome, we have to change the factors. Absolutely. You understand? So, and I hope people understand what I'm talking about. Because we have to look at that on a local level, on a state level, and on a federal level, but not even more, but more of a local and a state. Because right now, the government we got now is trying to give all power back to the state. You want to talk about women's rights? You got to make sure, if you're in New York, you got to make sure Albany is doing what you say. Because the responsibility for that is no longer on the government, according to the Supreme Court. So what are the outcomes? The outcome is what? You want women's rights, right to choose, right to protect the womb, right to this, right to that. And what are the factors? Local, county, state governments.
And some people already started, even before all of this, they've changed their state law. And, no matter what the national stance is, they've voted on it on the state level, and they've put the things in place that they needed on the state level.
Right.
So,
right. It's not that issue. Once the Supreme Court ruled on that, it's the law of the land. So it's almost not saying it's not important, but it's almost muted when you're talking on a national level.
Well, you also have more control of regardless, you have more control and more say-so on your local, county, and state levels. You can do more. You have more say. It's easier to vote elected officials in that have your interests in heart. You can change things more on your local level than you can on your national level. You send someone to the Senate and Congress, they're one of how many up there. You know what I'm saying? Your county exec runs your county. Your mayor or town supervisor runs your city, village, or town. You know what I'm saying? Your state senators and your assemblymen run your state. You know what I'm saying? So we have to get back into teaching these ethics. Jazz, I just want to say, Jazz, make sure that you reach out to me so I can hit you and Damon together so you can get on the Monday show that he's talking about. We can give you some more promotion. Thank you for tuning in. I do see both our guests are here, and
we're about to bring them in.
I'm gonna let you introduce them and get into shifting to the next part of the conversation. And if anybody's tuning in for the first time, this is Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show. We're on every Sunday, 6 to 8, simulcasting live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram. So make sure you tune in. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like. Most of the topics we're talking about, you can find on blackwestchester.com. Make sure you go there, you read, you leave comments, you share, and all that. So, Damon, introduce our guest.
So let's welcome Big Black Westchester. Round of applause, because First, we'd like to introduce Marvin Church. He's a friend of the show. He was just
Absolutely.
on it, what, last week? The week
Yes,
before?
like every other
The week
week.
before.
Yeah, like every other week.
Don't even go there.
and this young man here, man, Taurus McBride, man, I thank you for coming. We were talking. We would talk the other day, man. My wife had called like 3 times, but we was into the conversation because, you know, Marvin know and AJ know I've been a advocate for trying to get our young Black youth, male and female, in trade. It's very important to start doing this. First, Marvin, reintroduce yourself to everybody, and then go ahead.
Okay. I'm Marvin Church, and I'm with a number of organizations. Our non-for-profit is called Environmental Leaders of Color, and we're getting ready to start on June 30th to August 7th, a 6-week environmental program for teens from grades 9th through 12th grade. And we're in various cities throughout Westchester County, Port Chester, New Rochelle, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, Ossining, Peekskill, going into Sleepy Hollow, Terrytown, going into Elmsford, Greenberg, White Plains, going up to Dutchess County and Fishkill, and hopefully going into the South Bronx this summer. We should have over 200 to 300 students this summer. That's one of our programs. We also have an ambassador program where we have young people to do the Don't Strain Your Drain program, and they represent Scarsdale High School, White Plains, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, various high schools throughout Westchester County. And it's a and also we're looking to get some participants in Port Chester, additional participants in New Rochelle. And what the young people do, 9th to 12th grade, they get paid some money to help promote Don't Strain Your Drain. It depends on their attendance, and it depends on their attitude, and they can make up to $250 a month. But we want them to participate. They have to follow the rules. They get paid. They promote our program, and we're supposed to be slated to get an award this month from the Westchester County facilities, which is called the ECO Award. We're getting that April 25th, and young people will be getting an award there, which we're very happy to have. And we also have this program that we've been working in the last 4 years. It's in conjunction with the Urban League of Westchester. And also we work with, it's called Adopt Clean Energy. And we have a contract with NYSERDA, whereby we provide heating and cooling for Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, getting people off of fossil fuel, going into the green energy economy, electrification. And we have a contract to do some training, and we met Taurus in 2021, right during the COVID crisis. And he was very unique. And when we partnered with him and got a contract with him, we interviewed a lot of other firms, but Taurus companies really stood out with his technology and how he approaches and how he talks to the students. And he's got real life experiences, and we really appreciated that. And so we've been having a good, strong collaboration with Taurus for the last 4 or 5 years. Taurus and I always talk like twice a week. So he keeps me on cutting edge of what's going on in the industry. So even though our contract will be rolling down at the end of this year in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, we're just starting a class representing students in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and it's called a heat pump training class. And Taurus teaches that class, and he's an excellent instructor. We had over 50 applicants. We worked with the city of Mount Vernon, which helped us get the space over the Dole Center, and we really appreciate that because space is hard to find in Mount Vernon, as you know.
Yeah,
so we're really appreciative of the space. But one thing I will say is that Taurus is an excellent instructor, an excellent mentor for students who really want to pursue the career in the heat pump industry. He knows the nuances. He knows what people need to be focusing towards. He talks with suppliers. I just can't, I'll keep raving about Taurus because we talk all the time, but I can just tell you a little bit of highlights. So our program is going to last for another couple of weeks. Like I said, we had 50 participants who tried to get into class. We only selected 13 out of the 50, and they represent Mount Vernon and New Rochelle.
Well, welcome to the show, my brother. He gave you an introduction. Anything you want to add? Talk about your company. How long you been doing this? How'd you get into this?
Sure. So I'm Taurus McBride. I'm the CEO of Taurus Tech. It's an online HVAC and building engineering training company. And I've been training people in building engineering specifically for 21 years, ever since 2004. I actually went to a trade school myself, and they asked me to help first tutoring some students there, and then to help. I was a graphic designer, so they wanted me to help make new books and stuff like that. I spent 10 years there. I was a school administrator, teacher, did everything pretty much there. Taught literally thousands of people, probably tens of thousands of people at this point. And it was my experience there and at another union school that I just realized that these places that were supposed to be helping people advance in their careers was actually kind of not harming them, but holding them back in certain ways. Because if you weren't able to attend those classes, you could not get credit. You couldn't get you couldn't become qualified to take the exams that could lead to the six-figure jobs. So I created the only online on-demand course for certification preparation for, we call it a refrigeration engineer in New York City. So that specific certification can lead you to a six-figure job in New York City. However, many of my students, travel all across the country, and I'll get calls from people in California, Texas, Florida, because most people don't know this, but every state pretty much has some type of boiler certification. Most states don't have any type of refrigeration certification. The reason why that's so prevalent right now is because heat pumps are refrigeration systems. They're essentially air conditioning systems in reverse. So if a state or a locality doesn't have anything that teaches you how to deal with systems that have refrigerant inside of it, then in many ways, most people across the country are unqualified compared to the way that we prepare people in New York. So as Marvin said, I work with all the manufacturers. I work with all your unions. There's a lot of things that are happening in the city and state that I'm assuming we're going to talk about at some point during this interview that is impacting lives of many, many people in ways that they have no idea. And I've been trying for many, many years in partnership with Marvin and other people, trying to open people's eyes to the not just the need for people to work in trades, but also the opportunity, because trades, specifically HVAC and engineering, is not what people think it is. Many people, you don't have to work with your hands. I choose to work with my hands, but then also, like, I have apps that people utilize all around the world, and we build those apps. But then also in terms of system design and different forms of things that are necessary in terms of the maintenance and operation of the equipment. Many types of jobs available, and it's unfortunate that most minorities are not opened. Their eyes are not open to these opportunities, but also especially women, because I grew up with a single mother. A lot of people in my family were, essentially brought up by their mothers and grandmothers and things like that. And there's tremendous opportunities, and there's nothing that says that it's specific to any race or religion or sex. And we definitely need to use our power to open people's eyes to that fact.
So just for those who don't know, HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It refers to systems designed to control temperature, humidity, and air quality within a space, providing both thermal comfort and acceptable indoor air quality. The reason I gave you that definition, every dwelling, every house, every business, every apartment building needs these things. These things break down. They need to be serviced. They need to be repaired. Sometimes they need to replace. Most of the time when we call someone to do that in our community, they do not look like us. And these people, this is a big industry that we need more of our youth to get involved, our people to get involved, servicing our communities. You know what I'm saying? That's how you empower our communities. So I just wanted to break that down definition wise for people that don't know, and let you further clarify how important this is and why we should be getting into it. And I mean, literally, we talk about building up the middle class and all that. Getting into this is one way to build your middle class, take care of your family, have a good paying job where you can buy a house and car and all those things, and send your kid to private school if you need, or whatever. I mean, just like really support your family. And I want you to talk about the importance of that.
Sure. It's actually much bigger than that. Like, people think about HVAC in terms of just what we refer to as comfort cooling, You have your house, it's about to be summertime, we want air conditioning, or during the wintertime, we need heating. Actually, HVAC is central to human existence right now in ways that people can't even imagine. Remember during the COVID pandemic, when they were talking about like the vaccines, they said they had to be
Right.
like, minus something degrees temperature. So basically, all medication has to be refrigerated. So sometimes when people talk about HVAC, I use the term heating, ventilation, and cooling, because the cooling encompasses a lot of different things.
Right.
Because you hear sometimes people say, well, air conditioning is like comfort cooling, and then refrigeration, you might have food, you might have medicine, all these different things. But the big thing happening right now, when people think about money, money doesn't exist in the form of like gold bars or dollar bills. Money exists in the form of ones and zeros on computers that need to be cooled 24/7. Same thing with the telecommunication business. So my organization, in addition to being a school, we actually do service. We do service of equipment, we do maintenance, we do installations, we do everything. And because I've trained so many people, so many of my students run these large organizations where they have reached out to me over the years and asked if I could either do the work or facilitate the work. And I would always say yes, because initially I was trying to provide my students with experience. Because the main barrier that people would have, it wouldn't matter what licenses or certifications you have, if somebody doesn't want to hire you, the first thing they would say is you have no experience. So we started performing these tasks ourselves in order to be able to provide our students with some type of real world experience. That they go on a resume, they go on an interview, they start asking questions, they can actually fill in those blanks. And it just kind of took off, where now the majority of our revenue pretty much comes from the work that we do. But then with that, tremendous amount of opportunity, because now we can employ people, or we can really give people like the real experience in terms of how they can even like start their own companies. So in addition to Taurus Tech, we have the Taurus Trade Alliance, where I have an association of businesses, most of minorities, master electricians, master plumbers, GCs, engineers, like anything that you can imagine we have, because we actually do projects. Our facility is a veterans post in Flushing, Queens. A friend of mine was the commander of the post, and they were going to shut down because of issues with the building department. And Taurus Tech funded the renovation of that entire building. We started in like mid 2021. And the objective was to kind of show to the politicians that you can have these projects where whether it's public funding or private funding, but you can be renovating these dilapidated facilities that can then provide value to the community. And it just fell on deaf ears, and nobody really wanted to hear it. Now, to back, one of our relationships, I provide training for an organization called Digital Realty. Their data center. If you put aside like Amazon and Facebook and stuff like that, they are the 6th biggest data center company on the planet. And I train, like right now, we're in the process of training all their building engineers in New York. And pretty soon we're going to train all the engineers nationwide. So what that means is that I have a relationship with a very large organization. And I'm not going to say I can walk people into a job, but I can make an introduction. And I can say, as a matter of fact, they have hired some of my students before, because they know that the people that we train are coming with a certain mindset and they're prepared to do the work.
That's great, brother.
Absolutely.
That is phenomenal that you're taking it, to that level, and that's what we need. But I mean, we talked last night, right? The outlook on jobs, and what are we looking at? We had this conversation, but I want to have it on air so people can hear, because I said earlier in the show that and I said it when we talk, we always get behind, we always miss the turn. You know what I'm saying? Like we always, by the time we find out, it's over. So looking at right now, like the number of jobs, just talk about the number of jobs that are opening up and that will open up, in trade, that we really need to make this a priority in educating our children.
Yes, sir. So I'm about to turn 50 in a couple of weeks, and I'm very young in this industry. The average age of a person, not just in HVAC, but in all trades in general, is closer to 55 to 60 years old, which means that you have some people, 20s and 30s, but then you also have people in their 70s and 80s because they make so much money. And a lot of times you're getting paid for what you know instead of what you could physically do. And a lot of times one of the things that we do as a part of our organization is we try to capture knowledge that can be distributed to our students and our workers and things like that. Because once that old person is gone, they take all that knowledge with them, and then you go into a building with a 100-year-old boiler and you don't know what to do. But in terms of the job opportunities, I'll put this into perspective. In New York City, if you work for New York City as a garbage man, police officer, whatever it is, you have to take a test with DCAS. DCAS is Department of Citywide Administrative Services. There's a test that is essentially an HVAC mechanic called an oiler. So I was preparing my students for that test in 2023. That position in 2023, if you pass that test and you got hired, paid $60 an hour to start. That is not including overtime. So you're walking in the door making $120,000. They offered the test. Not enough people passed the test. So they offered the test again this year. So a lot of my students passed this year. In that 2-year span, it went from $60 an hour to $67 an hour. So you're walking in the door before overtime making $134,000 per year. With overtime, depending upon where you work, it might be time and a half. It might be double time.
Exactly.
But on average, oilers make over $200,000, sometimes $300,000 per year. There's a website called See Through New York. See Through New York, where you can look up and you can find the salary of every public employee because you work for the city, right? And you can put in the title oiler and then see what an oiler makes. And then beyond that, so in that engineering department, an oiler is working below a stationary engineer. So a stationary engineer, they have 2 licenses. I train people for the oilers test, but then also that refrigeration test I was talking about. If you have both licenses that you need to, those guys make $70 to $80 per year.
Wow.
And literally, there's a video of me from over 10 years ago, like 2014 or something, talking to a friend of mine who was in that stationary engineer position and literally breaking down how you can take those the steps that you need to qualify for those positions. That video has been watched 15,000 times. And that's in YouTube terms, that's not a lot, but in terms of changing people's lives, that video alone opened the doors for thousands of people to take those steps, because you have to work for 5 years in a high pressure steam plant in order to qualify for the stationary engineer job. So I'm just saying this, a lot of people, what people don't understand, if you said to somebody, go to college and spend $100,000 a year and come out with $500,000 in debt, like they can see doing that because that money's not coming out of their pocket immediately. But if you say to somebody, you have to work in a steam plant for 5 years, that'll put you on track to start out making $150,000 before overtime, plus annuity, plus full benefits, plus all these things that you have, plus you're in a union and you have to like shoot somebody in order to get fired. Like none of that would register with people to say that's a path that I want to take. And to be completely honest, like I deal with all the unions. There's not one union in this city, in this state, that I don't deal with in terms of either training their, like literally, they some of them pay me. They'll pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars, train dozens of their people. And I say that because the unions for the higher end jobs, let's just say they're 95% of a certain demographic and a certain gender.
Right.
I have to spell it out. And again, nobody has to put a sign on the door saying color that way. They don't have to do that if you don't show up. You have to show up. You have to have the right credentials, the right qualifications, but then also the right skills, the right mindset, and be determined to do whatever you have to do. Because like you said, this is about supporting your family and improving your family. And I know this for a fact because after I got my refrigeration license, I was initially going to work in the field, but I went into the training side of it. But literally, I started making 6 figures, and I was able to buy my mother a house that unfortunately she passed away a year and a half ago, and I just sold the house. But again, she died in her own house. And she had pride in the fact that she had her own house. And I think about, you look at what's happening in the government right now, literally hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs. And sometimes the only thing that keeps me going is the fact that I have work to do and people to help.
That's
one thing, Damon, I would like to say, and Taurus, you can continue, but one thing, but Taurus doesn't talk about this, but I know when I was interviewing folks, you have to be sincere, you have to be dedicated, and you have to be willing to work. And Taurus and I, even though I've had a few training classes, some people are there not to be serious. And we have to weed those people out because you're taking spots for people who want those opportunities.
Absolutely.
And that's what we had to do in this class. I'm not saying the students we didn't have who interviewed weren't serious, I just had to, I, by knowing how Taurus operates and how he thinks, I had to try to pick the student that I know could pass. Taurus, you need to talk to them about the 608, the starter exam,
Right.
the 608 program, because that's the
Mhm.
opening door for people that have the opportunity.
Mhm.
And you have to have a little bit of math. So I had to ask folks, unfortunately, can they do math? And people tell me yes. And then I had to ask certain questions. And I didn't even pass my verbal test.
Yeah. So
Well,
the
that goes
EPA,
back to the school, man. We gotta, everything helps each other. We gotta get our kids, you know, taught math.
well,
You know what I'm saying?
so one of the things that my organization is working on, because there's a
Mhm.
huge need for heat pumps since we have to install so many in the city at this moment.
Mhm.
So I started to see the way that most heat pumps were designed was not really, the best way. So I started to design my own and build my own. So at our facility
Really?
in Queens, we're building our own equipment, and it makes a big difference. I've been training people for 20 years, but when you allow people to come in and they can put their hands on things and they can take things apart and they can see how things work, it helps to really make things real. So one of the things
Yeah.
that happens is when you have a heat pump, you have one side that's very cold and one side that's very hot. So in air conditioning mode, the side that's very cold is inside, the side that's very hot is outside. But in heating mode, the side that is very cold is normally outside, the side that's very hot is normally inside, right? With
Mhm.
our system, all the equipment is designed to be indoors. And that's a very big deal. Like Marvin and the gentleman from the facility we were teaching at, he was saying how you had people installing heat pumps and they would put all these boxes on the outside of the house and it would face the house so bad they couldn't even sell it. And it was just literally
Wow.
to scam the utility companies to get the rebates. So we designed something, it's called indoor heat pumps, where all equipment is inside, right?
Wow.
Right.
Problem you have with that is that cold part is called the evaporator. It's so cold that it removes moisture from the air. And usually you have to drain it so that the water is either going outside or it's going to
Right.
your sewer or something like that. So we would have these big containers inside of our facility because we're testing. We want to verify that the equipment is working properly. And every day I have the people that work for me, the students, the work study people go there and they have to empty out that container. And they have to measure the container that it's inside of, and they have to
Mhm.
calculate like what's the volume, the cubic feet that is there, and then you have to calculate like the weights and the gallons and all this different stuff. And I explain to
Mhm.
people like that's real.
Right.
Unfortunately, in school, a lot of times things are theoretical where it doesn't even exist. And the good thing
Right.
about HVAC that I try to impart upon people is that HVAC is part art and part science, and it's more science
Mm.
than anything else. Because like it literally, I always tell people like when man discovered fire, do you think he used it to cook first or to heat his cave first? Because I think
Exactly.
he used it to heat his cave first. And he ate the
Exactly.
food raw, and then he figured out he could cook the food later. That's how
Exactly.
important HVAC is. Without HVAC, you literally can't survive. If it's freezing cold,
Wow.
you'll freeze to death. If you're burning up, you're gonna burn to death. So
Right.
HVAC is literally that important. So I've been striving for years, almost probably over 10 years, trying to not create the curriculum because I have it, but to get it into schools. My
Mm.
organization, we literally run all of the HVAC equipment for multiple schools around the city. But if we would have a conversation and say, hey, maybe you want to teach HVAC in schools, it kind of falls on deaf ears.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. That EPA 608 certification that Marvin was talking about, that is a national certification that is required really before you can work on any system that has refrigerant inside of it because the refrigerant is bad for the atmosphere.
Mhm.
There were certain types of refrigerants that they're called freon, and they're man-made
Mhm.
substances.
Right.
So initially, they had chlorine inside of them. And the difference between chlorine you would find in bleach and the chlorine in the refrigerant is that as soon as you open the can of refrigerant, it evaporates and it goes into the air. So the chlorine was destroying the ozone layer. So in
Mm.
1993, they came out with this EPA 608 certification to say that you can't do that. You have to do XYZ steps before you work
Mm.
on that equipment because we don't want to
Right.
destroy the ozone layer. So those types of refrigerants, they it's called phased out. You can't make them anymore and you can recycle it. So if somebody gets rid of an old piece of equipment, you can buy the refrigerant and you can reuse it in another piece of equipment. But now the refrigerant that they have now is bad for the environment because of global warming, because it has carbon inside of it. So the same thing, you open a can, the refrigerant goes into the air. Now it's impacting global warming, right?
Right.
So there are laws that say, number one, in New York City and New York State, every piece of gas and oil equipment needs to be replaced within the next 5 to 10 years. There's a law on the state level that says if your gas or oil boiler fails or hot water heater, you cannot buy a new one. There are laws that say that those refrigerants that are bad for the atmosphere, you can't use that equipment anymore. All of this was known prior to this year. So now there are already going to be billions of dollars in expenses in replacing HVAC equipment in this city and state. And nobody told our communities about it to say, hey, there's all these opportunities. You can find work. You can start companies. You can, and it's not just turning screws. I tell people, you don't have to do that. You can be in sales. You can be in system design. You can be in maintenance. You can be a lot of different. There's a whole area called controls where literally, and I do this, with a lot of buildings, literally I'm on a computer just typing, turn down the temperature in this room down 1 degree, turn it up in that room up 1 degree, right? The people who do that, literally all they do, they wire stuff up. They wire it up. They program on the computer. This wire goes here. That sensor goes there. That controls is so lucrative because it's not something I'm going to teach you that in school. All the manufacturers have the different, specifications on their own. So then you have to go to this manufacturer and learn what they have. You have to go to that manufacturer and learn what they have. So if you have that knowledge and that experience, literally there are guys making over $100 an hour doing that. And I'm talking these big numbers. I'm not suggesting anybody's going to start at that point. But literally when I started working at that school, I was making $20,000 a year and I was working 12-hour days. So I was making less than minimum wage. But it put me on the trajectory to get where I am. So if we have young people, listen, if I have children, so I would rather my child, work and make minimum wage than go to school and incur $500,000 in debt for a degree that they're never going to use, because half the people that go to college don't graduate. 75% of the people that graduate don't ever work in the field they got the degree in.
Right.
Exactly.
So right now, and let's not forget something. What has recently happened? The people who got deported and who were self-deporting, they were not doctors and lawyers. They were working in trades. So all of those positions are open right now.
I just applaud you. I applaud you for what you're doing. And bringing this education to people and hopefully encouraging our leaders, our elected officials to put more of these, our school boards, our school districts, to put more of these things in place so more of our students can learn this information. It's good as much as you're doing, there's just so many people that are not being affected because we need so much more. You know what I'm saying? And we need our schools to get on board.
Well, it's unfortunate because, like I said, I can show you pictures, videos of me, many a politician. I drove up to Albany many a time, and it completely fell on deaf ears there. And the amazing thing is that it's impacting the schools and the government more than anybody else. So if you look at that whole see-through, you go to many schools and many government buildings, and you'll see this big trailer sitting outside with these tubes going into the building. Those are either temporary boilers, temporary chillers, because the equipment in the building doesn't work. And the way that the city works, because they have that see-through New York thing, and they get tired of people complaining, oh, this engineer made too much money and this person made too much money. So, okay, we'll just pay to rent this thing. And it ends up costing 5-10 times the money. So you have a lot of that happening. Right now, there's on the New York City level, there's something called Local Law 97. If you've ever walked into a building and it had a letter grade on the building, that letter grade is for their greenhouse gas emissions. So if they have a boiler or whatever, and it's releasing too much, carbon, they have to reduce that. That law was created in 2019. Starting this year, those buildings are going to start to get fined. Some of those buildings are going to get fined tens of thousands, some hundreds of thousands. The fines go up in 2030, they go up in 2035. So by the time that happens, those buildings will be spending millions of dollars on those fines. because the city wants them to get rid of their boilers and put in heat pumps. Again, you need, technically speaking, you're not even allowed to work on this equipment unless you have these certifications. That EPA 608, the class that I'm doing with Marvin, we're training the people for that certification. I've given that test to 12-year-olds. It is a national certification, but nowhere is there age limit any place. Like that registration license, you have to be 18. But for the EPA, there's no, hey, I'll give it to anybody in the class. So I've always said to myself, you have a young person, maybe they're 14, they can get a right to work permit or something like that. They have that card that says, I'm qualified to do this. And I can show you pictures and videos of my students who started working as teenagers in these fields. And again, now they're chief engineers before they're 30. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars because their parents put them on that path instead of saying, well, you go to college, figure it out. And I'm not saying that people can't figure it out, but the great thing about HVAC, number one, it's multidimensional. So I have a lot of people in my trade alliance who might be plumbers. And you think, well, I don't want to be a plumber, I'm just working on tubes, even though that's not true. People who are electricians. Well, I don't want to be an electrician. HVAC encompasses all of that. So people can go into HVAC. And another thing that people don't know about, to become a master plumber, you have to typically work either 5 to 7 years under the supervision of a master plumber. To become a master electrician, it's the same thing. There's no rules like that in HVAC. So in a lot of ways, HVAC is kind of the Wild West. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for people to get work. Literally, that EPA 608, because if you work for a company, they can't send you to the store to purchase a nail if you don't have the EPA 608. So that alone opens up a lot of job opportunities. In New York City is very strange because the fire department administers over 100 different certification tests. If you want to be a security guard, you have to have the fire guard. So there's sprinkler, standpipe, smoke detector, fire alarm. If you want to use a torch, there's a torch operator. There's they call it fire guard for torch. I have students who get paid $50 an hour because they have a fire guard for torch certificate, because the guy with the torch can't light that torch unless there's somebody who has the card that says fire guard for torch operator.
Seriously?
That's right.
Man, I'm great. Take that test, man. So I can just stand there and watch this guy, man, just weld something, man, and go home after that.
That's it. There's so many things that people don't know. And what I say to people is, once you kind of, discover the industry and develop like the lingo, you can pick and choose. Oh, I like this. I want to work with computers. I like this. I want to do design. I like there's so like people have no idea what we actually do. Like my organization, number one, I film a lot of stuff. When I go to buildings and I'm doing jobs, I'm always filming things so I can show my students. So inside of our apps, our students, they watch videos, but they get to see a lot of real thing. Right. But then now, because we're just using every piece of technology we can find, we're even building AI into our apps, where the AI is looking at all the information, whether it's the text, whether it's the questions, whether it's the pictures, whether it's the video, to be able to say, oh, you having a problem with this? Look at this right here. And the stuff that we have, again, this is our custom stuff. So other people aren't seeing this. One of the people in my work study group, he grew up in the Harlem Children's Zone area. So Harlem Children's Zone, they like to send kids to college. So they sent him to Apex because that's the so-called trade school. So Apex charges like $18,000, $19,000 for their HVAC certification course. The young man went there and he wasn't able to get a job. So they asked him, could he be doing work study with me? So I was talking to the kid. I was like, you have your EPA? He was like, no. I said, how's that possible? He said they wanted him to pay additional money to take the exam for EPA 608, even though he financed close to $19,000.
Wow.
To go to the school.
How long did it take him to take the class for, Taurus?
8 months.
And how many weeks are we going to get is people going to give it the 6 week study?
So our class is going to be 6 weeks. I told him we're going to get the EPA and half that so that we can start talking about the real stuff, because the EPA only takes you so far. You need to know how this equipment works.
That's good,
you
man.
Understand, Damon and AJ, what I'm talking about? That's why I get this man, because he's serious. And he
but that's what we need, bro. And
you know the great thing about this, the great thing about what you're saying, and I want people to understand, no matter what the economy is, no matter what's going on a national level, no matter what's going on in the stock market, this is recession proof
It's improved.
because
Absolutely.
everybody needs this.
Absolutely.
No matter what's going on, you need all the things that you're talking about, and you need somebody to fix it, to repair it, to install it, to supervise it, to all the things you're saying.
It's bigger than that. Literally, because of these tariffs, the manufacturers have stopped shipping to the U.S. There's no new HVAC equipment coming into the U.S. None. And yes, there are local manufacturers. I'm a local manufacturer. All the parts come from overseas. The majority of the parts come from China. The metal comes from like Canada. Literally, we don't even make screws in this country. And the thing that really drives me nuts about the whole argument about tariffs, where people say, well, we're going to bring manufacturing back to the States. We already have manufacturing. We just don't have, well, we actually have mass production manufacturing. But guess what? I have students who build 60, 70-story buildings. You can't tell me that's not the same as manufacturing. Every time we build houses, every time we build apartment buildings, that's manufacturing. It's just a different type of manufacturing. But you even put that aside. When I buy a product, whether I'm buying the parts or I'm buying the whole thing from overseas, right? You have the person that has to design it. You have the person that has to sell it. You have the person that has to ship it. You have the person that has to stock it. You have the person that has to drive the truck in order to get the thing across the country. You have the people that sell coffee to all of these people. You have the restaurants. You have all of the supporting stuff. The United States is basically 80% services. We used to be more manufacturing, but if you go back 200 years, we used to be mostly farmers.
Right.
Our economy has transitioned. So I understand, yes, we can have more manufacturing here, but we're essentially bringing down the entire house to get people. If I can't get somebody to install a heat pump, I darn sure I can't get them to make one. So like that's a big problem. But then the other thing is this. If you have a piece of HVAC equipment, you better invest in maintaining it. So think about the job opportunities that has now created. Because I always tell people, COVID was great for my business because I was the only online school. All of this stuff that's happening right now is going to be fantastic for people who know how to not exploit it, because I don't want to see anybody suffer, but there's a tremendous amount of opportunities. As I said,
Exactly.
there's a lot of people with a lot of skills who left, which means there's going to be a need for a lot of people to take those places. There's a lot of people who are about to retire. There are a lot of people who are like literally those jobs. These people are retiring with $1 million pensions, $1 million pensions.
Mm.
So think about all those new job openings. But the difference is they had to work 20, 30 years to get that $1 million pension. You walk in the door now, a person with a refrigeration license in New York City, those unions start at $50 an hour. So again, if you're able to walk the right path, you know, it's definitely a lot more lucrative than people know.
Jane and Damon, I'll tell you this. Like I said, he's been very experienced. He's the real deal. I mean, I know a lot of companies that can do this training, but out of all the companies I've met, he's the real deal. A lot of people just go out there and try to make the money. We've had companies that Taurus and I know of who are national companies, minority companies, got all major contracts. We won't say names. They made millions and millions of dollars. They just went bankrupt last year, okay? Because they didn't have the capacity, and they try to utilize Taurus's expertise in this app. Taurus, why don't you tell quickly before they have you go? Tell them how your app is made up and how people can't try to steal your intellectual property.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, we have my company is called Taurus Tech. It was a tech company from day one. We used to try to get like investors and stuff like that, and they would look at me and look at the industry and, you know, say HVAC is dirty. I don't want to be a part of that. So we just invested in what we do. And the fortunate thing was I've always had students. I've always had customers. I've always had relationships. So we just tested and tested and tested and improved it to a degree where literally our app is utilized worldwide. So the Taurus training app is one of our apps. If you go to our website, Taurus Tech, my mother misspelled it. It's TAURIS, taurustech.org. You go to the bottom of the first page, it'll say iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, even VR. We literally have VR apps that you can wear the headset and literally walk around inside the space. We have facial recognition. We have voice recognition. We have AI. All of this stuff was built by me personally and my team. So when I talk about the types of job opportunities, it's not just turning wrenches. But the difference is, in order to do anything, you need to know what you're doing it for. I started this organization primarily because I know HVAC. I wanted to help people get into this field. So I utilized my knowledge in order to train people to build all this stuff. But I say, because we have people in our interns who are interns and doing work study with us, and they say, oh, I'm not interested in HVAC. I want to do like, whatever. And I say, you don't have to love what I do. You have to use the opportunity to do something to build yourself.
Right.
Nobody works for anybody else. We all work for ourselves. We just rent our labor by the hour. So you have to build your skills and, most importantly, your work ethic to know what you're capable of and what you're willing to do. And that will take you, almost anywhere.
Yep. That's it, man. Listen, man, thank you
How
for
can
coming on with this information. Go ahead,
how
AJ.
can people get in touch with you? Learn more
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
it. Find out your next classes or anything like that. Website, anything.
So our website, taurustech.org, So it's like the sign, but my mother misspelled it. So Taurus instead of Taurus. So
Right.
taurustech.org. If you do a search for us, you'll see us come up. Literally on the first page, you can see the apps. You download the app, create the account. One of the big things we do that's different than other schools, we literally give people free 7-day previews of all of our courses. We have over 40 different certification courses on our website, from fire safety director, like literally anything in HVAC, because we want people to see the difference. So I tell people, whether you go to my school or somebody else, it doesn't make a difference. I want you to understand where the standard is, where the bar needs to be, because by the time you sign your name with that dotted line of those other schools, you're going to owe that 20, sometimes $30,000+. And I'm trying to, at the very least, prevent people from, making that type of mistake. Then additionally, our classes are ongoing. That was one of the biggest reasons I started. Just the last story I'll tell before I leave. I was teaching at this union school, and somebody asked me to substitute teach for another teacher, a friend of mine. So I was subbing for this guy, and the students knew nothing, and they had been going to school for 3 or 4 years. I said, guys, I don't think you guys are prepared for this test. I've been training people for like 10 years at that point. You're not prepared. So the students in the union school who was paying me paid me to tutor them outside of the school. I was teaching 5 days a week at the union school, then had to teach another 2 days to teach those guys. Within a couple of weeks, all those guys passed and got their certifications. That was 10 years ago. That was the beginning of Taurus Tech, because I said this is unfair that people who are supposed to be there to help these people, they're actually holding you back. And this is not an anti-union thing. What I discovered was that the union was getting financial aid the longer they kept us in the classroom. And when you're going to school for a very long time, you tend to lose focus a little bit. And what we do is very intensive. That's the thing with the apps. If you go on our iOS app and then you go from your phone to your tablet to your desktop, like literally, I want people to use this stuff 24/7. That same certification, the New York City refrigeration license, that these other places would take 3 or 4 years, my students get in an average of 4 or 5 months. Wow. Because the only thing you have to have is 200 hours. You have to do 200 hours so that 200 can be stretched out. I had a young man who got furloughed from work. He did 200 hours in 1 month. He passed both parts of the test. He had his license in 2 months, and now he's an engineer.
Wow.
Damon and AJ, I'm going to tell you this before he goes. When we started the idea, and you guys helped us a lot with our program in Mount Vernon, that gave us the idea to do the Green Energy Park. Taurus will be one of the members of our team in the Green Energy Park because it's so important. He's got a wonderful facility in Queens, but we have nothing upstate at all.
No.
So Taurus is going to be one of our members in our Green Energy Tech group. When we get our building built and have our Green Energy Park, he'll be a part of that because we really need people like Taurus to do the training, but people got to realize this is not free. Okay.
Right.
I provided free service because I paid Taurus to do this for me. Okay. And I pay him on time. And that's why Taurus and I get along so well, because people like to not pay people on time, and they don't respect people's expertise and respect. I believe my wife and I believe in paying people on time. So nothing is free. They got to pay. If they got to pay, don't complain. If you go to the other trade schools, you're going to pay a handsome amount of money, but you got to
absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. You have to, you have to invest in yourself. If you want, because if the school systems are not going to pivot, you got to take it among yourself. And people just have to give. I mean, y'all guys are doing your thing in Mount Vernon, and towards you're doing it all over, man. But we have to, we have to really start getting it into our communities and make it a mindset of doing it, instead of, we're just sending kids to school, they're going to pass some tests, we're going to graduate them, now we're going to worry about the next group of kids and do the same thing. No, we have to change our mindset to make sure that these people, because you literally can service the community, right? Mm-hmm. You literally can service the community. And then if you have forward-thinking elected officials, then they're saying, okay, well, you want to build in the city, look what we got here that needs to be employed. Yeah. Right? Look at this pool of young men and women that are already qualified to do these things for, to build this building, and that's what we have to do. And I don't understand, man. Like Atlanta's mayor in the 70s, he created the millionaires. Why? Because he made sure he had trained people to build the city, and he made sure people from the city got the contracts to build the city, and that ushered in some of the a city that have so many black millionaires. They
did that with their little Black Hollywood. You had to. It was cheaper to film there, but and you got certain tax incentives, but you had to hire a certain percentage of your from locally. So that put Atlanta people to work. You know what I'm saying?
They have something called MWBE, Minority Women Business Enterprise. Mm-hmm. So by law, a third of all contracts in New York City and New York State are supposed to go to MWBE. You know how many it ends up being?
What?
New York City was 4% last year.
Really?
Wow.
And 70% of those were the women, yes, not the minority.
Yes. Exactly. This is, man, I've been arguing this with that. I've been arguing with DEI. I've been arguing with I'm like, yo, like, we're being bamboozled with these letters and these things that's supposed to help us when it doesn't. It doesn't help us, because white women are minority. Mm-hmm. They're classified as a minority. So mm-hmm. so they get through the front door. Mm-hmm. And we have to correct
it. There's paperwork, there's insurance. Insurance is skyrocketing. That's why I started my trade alliance, to have minority contractors be able to work together, to advise each other. I would say that the most valuable thing that you can have is knowledge, because you get to choose what you do with that knowledge. People don't even know what's taking place in the city. All of these airports they're rebuilding, like, these are multi-billion-dollar projects.
Exactly.
I was told that they're doing $80 million geothermal project in Mount Vernon. Literally, I was at meetings with politicians. You know where those geothermal companies coming from? They're not coming from our areas. Like, literally, they come from other areas to come to our areas to do this type of work.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. No, yeah, bro, you're absolutely right. And this is why, local politics is very important. Like, because they make these deals, and these deals are supposed to benefit the people in their city. I've seen it for years. And we have yet to really change to make sure those things happen. And it's not like we don't have the blueprint. Atlanta was the blueprint to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And man, it's crazy. Yeah. But sooner or later, people are going to change, and either that or people are just not going to come out and vote. They're just not going to come out and vote, because what is the purpose?
This summer, there's going to change a lot of people's attitudes when you have no new HVAC equipment, and literally the city is forcing you. Every home, every building you see, and this is not a joke, by 2030 has got to replace all their gas and oil equipment with heat pumps. And I was telling people for years, you need to do it. There were incentives, people didn't do it. So now you have the tariffs. So all the equipment, if it was $10,000 before, now it's $25,000 because of the tariffs. That's just the equipment. That's not even including the labor. So there's going to be a lot of just homeowners and businesses that will not be able to afford this stuff. And that's what really frightens me. And I've been trying to create a program where we can train people to do the work while simultaneously providing these services in the community, because this year is going to be bad. It's going to be very bad. And nobody believes me when I say that, but I guarantee you I'm talking about in like 2010 in France, because they don't have a lot of air conditioning. There was a bad heat storm and tens of thousands of people died.
Wow.
That's how bad it could be this year in our city.
And again, the important thing about this, we keep going the doom and gloom on what's happened on the national level, and these things that you're talking about can help us locally and build our economy, build our middle class, help us sustain ourselves no matter what's going on. I put the link to your website. Is that the
Yes, sir.
Okay. And anything we didn't ask you or that you want or didn't mention that you want to definitely get out? I want to give you an opportunity to do
Well,
that.
I'm gonna ask him this question because it's important. Taurus, you've been very competitive in the marketplace, and that's big. Let him know how the unions feel about you.
Oh, I'm the enemy. Even though the majority of their members either got their licenses to get those jobs from either coming directly from me or by utilizing my software that was pirated from me. Like literally, I licensed my software to some of the union schools and other schools. They copied all my stuff.
Wow.
Unfortunately for them, that was years ago. So it just made me smile. One of the things that I learned is you have to be very tough, and you can't just sit there and cry and look at, woe is me. Like, no, every setback I've learned from to say, how can I either prevent this from happening again? Like I said, I have relationships with billion-dollar organizations who trust me because they know how tight our security is, how impeccable our training and our software is. Not to say that it can't be better, but literally I employ people all around the world on our software and our graphics and all this stuff. I could be training people in that. Again, my biggest dream is for us to have a curriculum nationwide with, or even just locally with kids, and not even high school, like junior high school.
Right.
This stuff can be literally HVAC is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. HVAC is all of that. It's just that, we're not there yet, but trust me, Taurus Tech is not going anyplace because we are head and shoulders above anybody that's even trying to compete with what we're doing.
No, that's great, man.
Damon AJ, he's got that facial recognition. I mean, it's hard to get into his app. You gotta.
Well, you guys download the app. Everybody should down.
Yeah. Please download. I'm going to download it tonight. I'm going to download it tonight and sign up.
Let's see. That's kind of bright there.
Yeah, it's kind of glow.
It's
kind of glow. Yeah. No, I'm going to
download. He can track everything, Damon and AJ. He can track your time. He tracks when you're in. You can't share it with anybody else.
No. And now we're about to come out with our service app, where because people are not going to be able to get companies to come to them, there's a lot of companies that are going to go out of business because they can't get equipment, right? Or because they lost all the good workers because they got deported. So with it's called the Taurus Service App. It's bad. It's bad. It's super, super. Not only did people get deported, people are not showing up to work because they're afraid to get deported.
Right.
They're not driving because they're afraid ICE is going to pull them over, or ICE is going to run into their house. And listen, people that want to work, God bless them. But there are opportunities. There are tremendous opportunities. But those people, a lot of them come here with the knowledge, or they come here with the willingness to do whatever it takes to survive.
Right.
So the problem we have in our communities, but like I said, my mother died 1.5 years ago, and I had to sell her house. I did the closing last week. She had rented out the basement apartment to a tenant. I had to pay that man who did not pay a dime for 1.5 years to leave. My house.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's crazy.
That's how we treat each other in our communities, because we don't want to work. So that to say, oh, this is a homeowner, this is how this person pays their bills. And I know people like there's a group of minority developers who build buildings, and they'll say like their buildings are they're occupied, but 40 to 50% of the people don't pay the rent. And people don't look at how that impacts their impacts the the people who own the buildings, but then everything that surrounds it, because that's how our communities start to fall down like that. So I'm
exactly. We lack we lack, you know, Dr. Claude Anderson, he wrote the book Powernomics and different books. And one thing he always used to say, man, that the Black community lacks a code of conduct. We lack a code of conduct in how we treat each other, you know, and it doesn't make any sense.
That's what I like about HVAC, because HVAC is service. I'm serving you. Guys, I'm a CEO of $1 million company. And literally, I'm in there cleaning filters. I don't care. Like whatever allows me to train other people. This is how you treat people with respect. You want to get paid? That's fine. What are you giving back in order to get you up?
And you're going to continue to get your blessings. Like it's really going to come back. And I see if it has come back, and you're continue giving and giving the wisdom to young people and older people who's trying to change their lives. You know, and you're going to continue to get those blessings. Whatever we can do, you know, whatever we could do, but with our platform, to help you, help other people, man. Listen, man, we're here, right? And I'm really going to start sending. I really want to start sending letters out to some of these school boards and ask them officially, what is your plans? What are you going to do? How are you going to train young children in trade? What is your plans? You know,
most places have school board elections next month. In several cities and municipalities, you have school board elections next month. You have people that are coming to you for your vote. These are the type of things you need to be telling them you want in your school. What is their plan? And if they don't have an answer, you need not vote for those people.
Yeah. Somebody just made a statement about this would be good for incarcerated. I have multiple students formerly incarcerated. Trust me, in the HVAC business, they need somebody to work. They don't care about your past. No. They care about whether you're willing to work or not.
But you know what though? You should be in the county jail. Yeah. Right.
I'm trained formerly incarcerated. I've trained plenty.
Exactly. But it should be part. If you're in there for a non-violent offense, like stealing, like they lock people up for stealing fried chicken or something, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in there and you're doing 6 months, non-violent, this is thinking out of the box. Part of your, and I said this before, even with community college, it's cheaper to send somebody to community college than for 2 years, than house them in the county jail for 2 years.
Yes, sir.
So if this, you got this nonviolent guy in front of you, you say, okay, we're gonna give you're getting 6 to 8 months, but instead of going to jail, you're mandated to go here and get a trade.
Same way you used to do with the Army.
And if you don't go, I'm sending your behind to Westchester County Jail. You're gonna do straight time. We have to start thinking like that.
It doesn't just have to be nonviolent. I'll tell you a personal story. When I was 16 years old, I was arrested for gun possession. I was a teenage runaway. I was in a gang, and a friend of mine gave me a gun, and I got stopped on a train platform. They patted me down, and they told me to leave. I didn't leave. They patted me down. They found it was a little 22. It wasn't a big gun, but I spent the weekend in Rikers Island. And come Monday morning, they sent me before the judge. The judge said, are you in school? I said, no. He said, go back to school and this will go away. So not only did I not have, have to go to jail, this was expunged from my record. That was the only reason I didn't have a felony chasing me the entire rest of my life. So I'm very sensitive to the fact about giving people, second chances if they need it. Because a lot of times you can only choose of the options that you know that are available to you. So if you're in a place where literally if you don't jump the gang, they beat you up. Like, okay, I get it. But now if there's an alternative that you can choose, and it's something, if you show people what they are capable of, they can take that football and run with it. And I know we have so many geniuses in our community of all ages. It's not just young people. I have multiple people in their 60s who work for me. All I care about is
Mhm.
willingness to work. I will train you
Right.
online in
Right.
person. I don't care. We just need people to work.
Right.
And
No, no, no.
AJ, I'll tell you this: a lot of the women, we have women in the class. I made sure we had women in the class, and they are sharp as a whip. And Torch will tell you they were sharp in that class with answering the questions, doing the diagrams, doing the charting, everything. Sharp as whip. I made sure we had some women in that class. And Torch will tell you from me and what the students I've chosen this time, he'll tell you. He told me I picked a really good luck of some really good students. There's a lot of good students out there that I wanted to choose.
That's probably why we don't have more people in trades, is because women don't consider trades for themselves. So it's not something
Right.
that they would consider telling their children to go into.
Right. You know, Damon, what you're saying about cheaper to keep them in college and that the put them through college, 2-year college, then housing them. We used to have those programs, and a lot of people went to the military as an alternative to going to jail. Instead of sending them to the military, we should do this. Like that shouldn't be the only. There's a lot of people I know, they only went to the military because it avoided going to prison. And if we offer this option as an alternative to incarceration, not only do you build the person up, but then you enable them to take care of themselves and to do for their community and to be thriving members of their society. The Army takes you and you go overseas and you go to war somewhere. You know what I'm saying? This helps you in your community. This helps you because now you're a vital person in your community. You're now a homeowner. You know what I'm saying? So you're paying taxes. You're contributing to your community, and that's how we build our community. So,
and it's not just HVAC. Like literally, you walk around. Like our society is crumbling. People don't really get that. Like when you drive under a bridge. Like take a look at the bridge.
yes,
If it looks like some of those bricks are a little wonky,
yes.
like that's a very serious thing. Our buildings are. Look at the building that collapsed in Miami. The fire in the Bronx that killed several African families. Like
Look at that club. Look at that club in the Dominican Republic.
It's just the whole
it's a huge club that hundreds and thousands of people are killed and injured, and then there's some that's still buried that they haven't even been able to get their remains or anything. And that just happened the last week or so.
Yeah, a couple of days. Everything that human beings build needs to be maintained. And what happens is just because like the government, they talk about, infrastructure, we're going to do infrastructure, but they never do it. I read somewhere like 40,000 bridges in this country like need some type of work. And we're not talking like rebuilding a bridge. It could literally just be scraping. It's like the paint. It's called it's a coating on top of it to keep it from rusting. And you have to scrape that off there. You have to apply some new coating on there to keep it from happening. Because what will happen if you see metal and it's starting to rust, like literally that rust will go down into the cement and it will expand. You'll get ice and go like that and it'll crack the ground. And you can literally walk around and see the cracks in the ground everywhere. We can be employing people in a multitude of different ways. It wasn't a bridge. It was something that collapsed in New Jersey, and it would have cost like $70,000 to fix, and now it's like a $30 million job to replace it. And that's the major problem where we're not. To me, Marvin will tell you the facility that we use as our office is a veterans post. I spent $500,000 of my own money to fix it up. At the time, this was coming out of in the midst of the pandemic. There was something called the Gun Violence Reduction Program. Yes. In which Mayor de Blasio allotted, I think at the time it was like $50 million, specifically with the goal of training people to work in so-called green jobs, which was supposed to be heat pump installation. So one of the people who was administering the program said, do you want some of these people to come be a part of your program? So I was like, sure. So while we were working on this veterans post, I had 30 people. Many of them had spent 10 to 20 years in prison. I did not care. So I had the people working there, and we literally did everything, basically rebuilt the entire building. In November of that year, November 2021, and I'll share with you guys, if you look on YouTube, Taurus Tech Jobs Fair. I held a jobs fair, and I invited all my friends from these big companies. It's hilarious, where you have these people in like $2,000 suits from CBRE, Cushman Wakefield, Jones Lang LaSalle, those biggest property management companies, Memorial Sloan Kettering, one of the biggest hospitals, all these big organizations interviewing these people for these jobs. If I see people are willing to work, I will do whatever I can in my power to put them on the path to earn 6 figures. That's what we want. Because you have a lot of people who work in HVAC and they'll never train them. They'll never get these licenses and certifications because the companies are scared that they're either going to ask for a raise or they're going to go to another company. And I always say, I would rather have somebody.
Or start their own.
Yeah. I'd rather have somebody who's ambitious, who has one foot out the door, than somebody who's not ambitious, who's going to stay with me forever. So that's my philosophy.
Exactly.
I want to let you know. So I want you to know you have an open door policy. Anytime you want to come and educate our community, any new initiatives that's going, anytime you need to, prop up or promote what you're doing, or or other programs that our community needs to know about.
Yeah,
that are out
absolutely,
there,
man.
You got an open door policy, but my brother,
Absolutely, man. Thank you for coming, man. And listen, man, all the blessings for the work that you do now and that you will continue to do, in getting our young people, our young men and women into these trades so they could be productive citizens, man. They can make some money, they can take care of their family, man. And that's what it's all, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, man. So man, we salute you, brother. We definitely salute you. And
Damon, stop by our class on Saturdays. For the next couple of weeks, you can come by just to check it out and see how we're doing. So
yeah. And well, where you at, Marvin? Let people know where
Dole
he's at.
Center. We're at the Dole Center on Saturdays from 10 to 2. And we'll be there for the next couple of weeks, 5 weeks. If Taurus does his right movement, we can get those people to get the 608 within 2-3 weeks. That'll be great, and we can start working on design and installation and repair. So that's going to be critical. And I didn't pay him for that extra. I paid him just to do the 608, but he's willing to do extra if they students pass this exam. That's why I told him I need people going to pass the exam.
Absolutely. Once again, this is the website. I kept putting it on the screen. Everybody go to that website. Check what his brother's doing. I will see you on Saturday. If not this Saturday, next Saturday, I will definitely make it my business to come through. Thank you for what you're doing. Like I said, open door policy, and salute to you. And Marvin, as always,
Thanks for giving us the opportunity tonight. Thank you again.
Thank you, brothers, man. Y'all have a good night, man. Be safe. We'll talk very soon.
All right.
All right now.
Yes. So this is just, again, getting back to what we really started doing before when we first started out, giving important information like this out to our community. A lot of y'all are hearing stuff that you never heard before. What I need you to do is share this information with your organizations. Share this information. Share the show with your elected officials. Share this with your community. It doesn't make a difference. We can do all the information if the information doesn't get to the people. If you like what you heard, share this. Share this. Share this with some young people. Share this with some older people. Share this with your leaders in your community. Ask your elected officials, why don't we have this in our town or city? Again, you have school board elections coming up. Ask the people running for school board trustees that make the decisions in your schools and how your school will be governed and the programs in your school. Ask them why we don't have this. What is their plan to do more of this? The ones that are in office now, if they're not doing it, they don't have the answers, you vote them out. The candidates that, got a plan, that's the ones you vote for. And then you stay on top of them. Go to your school board meetings with what you learned here today and says, why don't we have stuff like this? See, we can't always just depend on our leaders. Politics is a participatory sport. You have to participate. You have to fight for what it is that you want. If you want stuff like this for your kids, if you want stuff like this in your schools, if you want stuff like this in your town, village, or city, you have to go to your city council, to your school board meeting. You have to talk to your elected officials. You have to demand this stuff. But you have to know what it is to demand it. That's why I said, watch the show, share the show, and we're going to continue to bring you stuff that's good for our community. We had Damon's had the AI. We've had Eric on more than once talking about AI and AI training. We're going to keep bringing you this information. You have to share it, man, and then you have to fight to get this stuff into your community. So, unless Damon, I guess he got some closing stuff and some stuff to share. We're gonna do this week. We're gonna end the show soon.
Yeah, man. It's just that's great. And we have to get our Sandy Bernardi left a comment on Instagram about Mount Vernon and looking into that. And I think the guy, without even knowing we were on Instagram, answered it. Then he went to the meeting and it was everybody that was from out of town that didn't look like us. So, we have to hold our Black elected officials accountable, man. Like, we have to do it because they create the laws, they create the policies. And if the policies and laws are not pivoting for the benefit of the masses, then the masses have to really take the time and get people in these positions. It is what it is. It's not personal against anybody, but it's the survival of our communities. We have to begin to think about the survival of communities, and we have to not get bamboozled by photo ops and Instagram and TikTok posts and
symbolism without substance.
Right, yeah. Exactly. All this other foolishness, all this other foolishness that comes to play when the outcomes are not what we want. And I'm going to continue to say it, and that's going to be my mantra for moving forward, because it seems like Black people don't get it. We don't get it. We want to complain how our community looks. We want to blame racism. We want to blame racism. We want to blame the system. We want to blame everything but ourselves in the choices that we make to complete these outcomes, especially when the city council and the mayor and the county and the county legislators, the county exec look like us. Who is there to blame? They all look like us.
School board trustees, everybody.
The school board trustees, superintendent, they all look like us. So how are we blaming racism when they all look like us? We have to accept the responsibility ourselves. And if these people are not giving us the outcomes in which we need, we have to put new people in.
It's what other communities do. That's why other communities are thriving in ways we're not, because they do this. Exactly. If the elected officials do not do what is in their interest, in the interest of their kids, in the interest of their community, they vote them out. They support other candidates that will work on those things for them. They demand, and they come out and they vote. So when they call these elected officials, and they vote in blocks sometimes too, they call these elected officials and be like, listen, you want to be reelected, this is what we need for you to do. You want our vote, this is what we need from you. We need to get on that page and demand what we want. No one is going to give it to us because it is the right thing to do. Nothing we have ever got from a people that as a people wasn't because it was the right thing to do. It's because we fought for it.
Exactly.
We have to continue to fight for what we want. I don't care who's in the White House. I don't care what's going on the national level. You are not you're not even contributing and controlling what goes on your block, in your city, on your school, in your city hall or town hall. There was no civic association. Like you, those are things sometimes you gotta work on. We worried about what's going on at the top level. We need to build from the bottom up. We need to first control and have control over how our community is being governed, our community is, the services that our community have. Like I said, our block association, our civic association, our organizations, our school districts. Those are places we need to start first. Then we can go up the next level, which is then your county. Then you can go up your next level, which is then your state. And until you can make major strides in control there, it don't matter what you're doing on the national level. These things matter. These things have more effect on your day-to-day life.
Right.
Shout out to Rodney Bynum, said no community activism or interest. We have to, again, Damon said it all the time, and the Jamal Bowman race, the other side showed that they were putting their community over the party, their interests over the party. And we put a party over everything. And we need to start, I don't care what they look like. They don't know. Everybody that look like us ain't for us. Sometimes some people that don't look like us, you know what I'm saying, are better. And if they have our best interests at heart, that's who we need in there. So listen, again, I'm ending the show like I did the other week. What are you willing to do for what you want? Complaining ain't doing it. Trying to find blame on somebody else is not doing it. Focusing only on what's going on in the White House and the administration and the Republican-controlled Congress and the House is not doing it. What are you doing in your local area, your block, your school district, your city, your government? What are you doing? And I'll leave it there. Damon, what you got coming up this week?
We got Monday. We got Elevation Nation, I think, with Tasha Young.
Yes. almost every Monday at 6 p.m.
Yeah, we got well, yeah, with Tasha Young, and finally Monday night, Tasha Young is at 6, Elevation Nation, and finally Tamika Cunningham is coming on for Money Mondays, and of course, it's balling on the budget. We'll talk about the greatest sense. I'm talking about the Amir line. Actually, it's 1, 2, 3. There's four. Amir line, and then on Wednesdays you got Wellness Wednesdays. Elevating your soul with food. We talk about clean eating and healthy eating. 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. And Thursdays is Motivational Thursdays at every Thursday at 8 p.m. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I'll figure it out before then. But definitely tune in. Is definitely going to be a banger. I got some ideas to make people go crazy. And Friday mornings at 8 a.m. you can catch me online for like 20, 30 minutes, no more than 40 minutes, unless Jack Toon is on, our general commentator who gets me riled up. He asks the question, get me all riled up, then I go on rants, so hopefully he don't catch me Friday mornings.
Yeah.
Because one day, man, I ended up on there for 2 hours, man, messing around with Jack. I was like, dude, don't you got a job? Like, ain't you supposed to be at work or something?
But there's plenty of content, man. You like what you see, share it. Come back. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe, because you'll see when we're going live, when we're going to do these different lives, you might not remember what, but if you're subscribing, you'll get the notification. You know what I'm saying? That we're getting ready to do something. Make sure that if you like what you see on the website, leave comments on the articles and the content. Give us your feedback. The email address is blackwestchester@gmail.com. Let us know what you want to see us discuss, what you want to hear us talk about, what you want to hear us address. Again, this is Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show, simulcasting live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and X every Sunday, 6 to 8. Giving you that real talk for the community and news with the Black point of view since 2014. We're coming up on our 11-year anniversary. We've almost been doing this 11 years from the time we first started this. And Damon has a series of books. I have a series of books. Follow us on our individual social media at Damon K. Jones and me at Mr. AJ Woodson, and buy our books and support that way as well. So
definitely, man. I got 2 new books coming out, and God is in Your Vegetables, and I always forget the other one. Jesus Christ, emotional politics and logical failure, what Black politics refuse to face.
No doubt.
People gonna get mad. People gonna get mad at that one.
Yeah, keep us going. Make sure you advertise and make donations and everything to keep this so we can keep it free for the people. Until next time, peace.
Peace out. Peace out.
This is the People Before Politics show, broadcast every Sunday at 6 p.m. Hosts Damon K. Jones and AJ Woodson bring you the news that impacts our community. Join us for unfiltered, unapologetic coverage of the stories that matter most. Black Westchester Magazine presents The People Before Politics show, the news with the Black point of view.